Yemen had the most important Jewish kingdom in the world?
Yes,
Say more.
the Himyarite kingdom, and they engaged, among other things, in persecuting Christians. In retaliation for the persecution of Jews in Byzantine Empire, they were invading the Arabian Peninsula, and so they were very, very important. You know, the Queen of Sheba, that is also Yemen. The Saba kingdom that is mentioned in the Bible, is mentioned in the Quran. It's Yemen. I have gone actually to the ruins of the Queen of Sheba's palace in Yemen. This Himyarite started about 110 BC, but around 380 AD, they converted to Judaism.
One of my favorite things about Yemen is that the eastern part of southern Yemen is geographically north of North Yemen.
There was no south and north. At that time, they were kind of one kingdom. All their cities are at the very top of the mountains.
Doesn't Yemen have, I think, the world's tallest mud buildings?
Hundreds of years ago, they built like 6-7 story buildings that you couldn't find anywhere else in the world. In terms of the civilization, they are really ancient, among one of the ancient civilizations in the world. Unlike, what Arabia was what we call Saudi Arabia today. It was just hinterland. It was like no man's land. Bunch of tribes there. But Yemenis consider themselves rightly the true Arabians, the civilized Arabians, and they, to this day, they consider this kingdom of Saudi Arabia is like, neophytes.
The port of Aden, I assume, was a big bright line between Yemen and, say, the Nejd, where the Wahhabs were, because Aden, they saw other people.
2,000 years ago, this was the main hub. The Yemenis produced frankincense and myrrh and these things, and they were also the conduits of the spice trade. And so the spice came from India, went through this area, and then went up to this was like the alternative Silk Road. Basically, it went up to Rome. And so they became very affluent because of this trade. But also they produced, this is where coffee was kind of discovered.
Didn't the Romans refer to Yemen as Arabia Felix, Happy Arabia?
These days, Happy Arabia, because of they chew cod. I have chewed cod. The effect is like an upper. It makes you so happy. It's like if you could drink, let's say, 50 cups of espresso, how happy and up would you feel? In Yemen, around 10, 11 o'clock, everybody starts about the cod market. Like, how is the cod today? Is it fresh? Is it nice? Is it whatever? And like after afternoon, every man is going home with a plastic bag of cod hanging from his dagger, because they wear these traditional daggers, and they walk around, and this little bag is swaying in the wind as they walk around, and they go home, and everybody starts chewing cod, and you walk the streets of Sana'a like 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like nobody told them like it's time to close down. Like every store is open, everybody is chewing cod, everybody is happy. So when I went to Yemen, I could take rent a car and a driver, because without the driver you would be taken hostage. And so
by whom?
By tribes. The tribes in Yemen, the way they resolved their issues with the government was that they would take tourists hostages. They would not mistreat them. They would treat them very well. And there was a joke going around, Europeans and Americans who wanted to learn Arabic, they would say that is the best Arabic immersion program there is.
Great.
So they would take these hostages until the government granted them whatever they wanted. Really, kind of what it has in common with Afghanistan is tribalism. It's one of the most tribal countries in the world.
Well, and particularly, I guess the Houthis, who we need to talk about, the Houthis were in the north, in the mountains, sort of like the Afghans were.
It is recent, because initially they were not called Houthis. They
Right.
were called Zaydis.
Right.
And Zaydis are really revolutionaries. They believe that it is a duty of anyone. The Imam is the one who stands up with his sword against oppressors. These Shiites are not like Iranian Shiites that have a lot of differences. Their differences are very little. The whole conflict started with Arab Spring. So Arab Spring, as you recall, it's a popular movement where people stand up and say, where is our vote? We want to participate. We want democracy, human rights, citizens' rights, and things like that.
Started in Tunisia.
Started in Tunisia and went all the way to Egypt and Syria and all the Gulf states and Yemen and places like that. And the Zaydis, now called Houthis, they started to rebel, and they took over Sana'a. And this is when Saudi Arabia, backed by some conservative Arab countries and backed by some European countries as well as the United States, started to bomb the Houthis.
As I understand it, even before the Arab Spring, the Houthis had already been unhappy and militarized against President Saba.
Okay, let me say something about militarized. Yemen is NRA heaven. Like if somebody went from NRA to Yemen, they would be really, really giddy because everyone is carrying weapons, from Colts to submachine guns, and the bigger your weapons, the better. On Fridays, all the people of Sana'a would go out into the mountain to shoot, and we went to watch the scene. One of my friends in Yemen, when I visited, a postman, he's a mail carrier. And when we went to this party, he started putting his weapons on the table before he sat and started to eat. I mean, they kept coming out, the Colt, the Uzi, whatever. I said, like, you are a mail carrier. Why do you need all these weapons? Are you going to war? He said, no, weapons are zinat al-rijal. Weapons are the ornaments of a man. Women wear jewelry and men carry weapons. So nobody needed to be militarized. Everybody is weaponized up to the teeth in Yemen.
Well, okay, so now that is Professor Ahmad Sadri, policy expert. But let me ask Professor Ahmad Sadri, soothsayer. I ask you to gaze 10 years, 15 years into the future of Yemen. What, as you gaze, as you see, as the mist arises from your hookah, as you sit there chewing your cot and feeling good about the world, what's Yemen going to look like 15 years from now?
When I gaze into my crystal ball that you have just given me, and I'm going to play along, my crystal ball is kind of very sunny and is very optimistic. I believe that the future of the world belongs to democracy and human rights. And in the long run, that is what is going to win. And I believe that slowly but surely, the Islamic world is learning its lessons in the school of hard knocks, having experienced Islamism, having experienced religious tyranny in places like Iran, in places like Saudi Arabia. Eventually, the right will win over the darkness.
So you're a Steven Pinker, 18th century European Enlightenment will save the planet kind of guy.
I am. I love that book. I love Steven Pinker, and I believe that Enlightenment values will prevail in the long run.
You may be the one person I know who is even more optimistic about the future of the world than I am, and may the gods bless you for that.
So I think we are a 2-member party of sciencey optimists. 2 down and 200 million to go.
There you go. All right. Well, that's